As a tribute to the recently departed former President Fidel Valdez Ramos, here are 10 things about his genealogy. Elected as the 12th President of the Philippines, FVR was the first and only Protestant to become president and so far the only Filipino in history to hold every position in the armed forces of the Philippines from second lieutenant to commander-in-chief. He headed the Philippine Constabulary from 1972 until 1986, Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces from 1986 to 1988, Secretary of National Defense from 1988 to 1991, and President of the Philippines from June 30, 1992 to June 30, 1998, succeeding President Corazon Cojuangco Aquino. Here are some information about his genealogy. Number 1. The Ramos surname used to be Apelido. Although the surname Ramos can be found in Asingan, Pangasinan from as early as the late 1700s, and there is enough evidence that FVR's family used Ramos prior to the 1849 Claveria surname decree, they opted to adopt the surname Apelido when the decree was enforced, and for several years they were known as Apelido or Ramos Apelido. But, just like their cousins, the Marcoses, who also adopted another last name to comply with the decree but eventually returned to using Marcos, the family eventually dropped Apelido and resumed using Ramos. Number 2. FVR's grandfather was a Katipunero. Don Placido Ramos, the grandfather of FVR, although a cabeza de barangay, joined the Katipunan and fought in the historic Battle of Dagupan from July 18 to 22, 1898. This battle brought an end to Spanish rule in the province of Pangasinan. He had two families. When his first wife died, he had a relationship with Ramona Rueca. For some reason, all their children, while acknowledged by Placido, were described as hijos or hijas natural, which meant Placido and Ramona lived together outside of wedlock. Number 3. FVR and President Ferdinand Marcos were second cousins. While history books have discussed it in the past, people still forget that President Ramos was the second cousin of President Marcos Sr. FVR's maternal grandmother, Crispina Marcos, was the sister of Fabian Marcos, who was Marcos's paternal grandfather, both the children of Don Damaso Marcos and Doña Leona Galimba. This means that current President Bongbong Marcos and the daughters of FVR are third cousins. Number 4. FVR was the fifth Ilokano president. Aside from his cousin, Ferdinand Marcos, who was of pure Ilocano stock, 3 other presidents were also from families in the Ilocos region. These were President Elpidio Quirino, who was from Ilocos Sur, President Ramon Magsaysay, who was from Zambales, and President Carlos P. Garcia, though born in Bohol, was the son of parents with deep roots to Abra. Number 5. FVR's father was a founding ASEAN signatory. The father of FVR, Narciso Ramos, had a distinguished career. He served as a 5th District Representative for Pangasinan in the Philippine Assembly from 1934 to 46. President Rojas asked Ramos to establish the Philippines Diplomatic Service and the country's first embassy in Washington, D.C. after 1946. He was then appointed Secretary of Foreign Affairs from 1966 to 68 and later held various positions as head of various missions, being one of the founding signatories of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in 1967 and his signature on the Ramos-Rusk Agreement, which reduced the 1947 agreement between the United States and the Philippines about military sites from 99 years to only 25, are two of his most enduring legacies. Number 6. FVR's mother was also very accomplished. FVR's mother, Angela Marcos Valdez, grew up in a family of educators. Both her parents were teachers, and she and her 7 siblings were sent to and graduated from the University of the Philippines. She was also an educator in her own right, as well as a respected civic leader. She was one of the leading figures fighting for women's right to suffrage in the Philippines in the 1930s. Number 7. Narciso Ramos married twice. Like his father before him, FVR's father, Narciso Ramos, also had 2 women in his life. He first married Angela Marcos Valdez in 1927 in Batac, Ilocos Norte, and they had 3 children, Fidel, Leticia, and Gloria. Number 8. Narciso Ramos's second wife was from Cebu. After the death of his wife Angela in 1977, he married Alfonsita Galeos Lucero in 1979. Alfonsita's parents were both from Argao, Cebu, and her father was a military dentist. Number 9. FVR's 2 sisters were also accomplished. The older sister, Leticia, was known as a pioneer in the international women's movement. In the 70s, she led the drafting of a convention on the elimination of discrimination against women, also known as the International Women's Bill of Rights, and defied Cold War tensions by enlisting the Soviet Union as a co-sponsor to get it off the ground. She was also Senator of the Philippines from June 30, 1987 to June 30, 1998. The younger sister, Gloria, was married to Lieutenant Aldo Jacinto de Roda, a jet pilot in the United States Navy. Gloria served as the Philippine Vice Consul, then as Consul in Los Angeles and San Diego, California, USA. Number 10. FVR was known as the Protestant President. Although he was the first Protestant to be elected president in a predominantly Catholic nation, his cousin Ferdinand Marcos was also non-Catholic, being a member of the Anglican Church before converting to Catholicism right before his marriage to Imelda Marcos. FVR and his wife Ming were married on October 21, 1953 at the Central Church, now known as Central United Methodist Church, in Manila. In a 1997 interview with the Chicago Tribune, First Lady Ming Ramos described how difficult it was growing up Protestant and how the Catholic Church continued to meddle during FVR's presidency, accusing Cardinal Sin and former President Aquino of conducting a hate campaign against her husband because he was Protestant. President Fidel Valdez Ramos came from a family of educators, leaders, and nationalists, and he would forever be known as one of the major players of the People Power of 1986. However history will judge him, it cannot be denied that he was instrumental in breathing life into the Philippine economy, earning us the moniker Tiger Cub Economy in Asia. Vaya con Dios, President Fidel Ramos.